Receiving content. We are live.
Yay. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Green Pack.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand up in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Green Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Got another great show chambered for you tonight. Maybe I should come out weeks. Yeah, we got another great show for you tonight. Lots of exciting stuff. Exploring more weird movies on our Filmstruck channel, which that romance is about to abruptly come. There's going to be no more Filmstruck after the end of November.
Yep. Which I figured they would like maybe try a different model before they just folded, because they added like the Turner Movie Classic. They added like 3 more like channels and a bunch of more film libraries, and then just like it seemed like it was expanding, and then no, and then it's like then you immediately know what it doesn't have the
it's maybe had 2 million subscribers at its apex, and I think Warner Brothers owns it or something like that.
I don't know who owns it, but
yeah.
But yeah, I remember there's they're over their social media handler. They got a thing out on Twitter. It was like your Filmstruck 5, and it's like your five favorite films, and it was supposed to be like your 5 favorite films like that are on Filmstruck, but then people just ran away with it to be like their top 5 movies. And like it became this big thing on Twitter for like a week, and nobody knew what Filmstruck was. They just like ran away with the thing.
Yeah, they thought it was like some word like Filmstruck, struck by films. Like, no, wait, we're a service. Desperately need your subscriptions so you can watch.
And they had like school funding stuff too. Like there was sections where, where it's like, are you a college? Log in here.
Student discounts, because it was only $100 a year.
Yeah.
For which it wasn't bad. I mean, it's comparable to any streaming service.
Well, like the way we justified it is like, so we did 3 Criterion movies for the 80s section that we're doing, the 80s movies.
Right.
And those were like $30 a piece, and that was 3 movies.
And you had to buy them and mail them around, and everyone had to watch them. And
yep.
Yeah, and they were cool movies, and it's like, oh, we all discovered, it's like, well, we can only talk about, how can we can only plunge the depths of Amazon Prime and Netflix for so long. And it's like, where are these cool, weird movies like that inspired other movies supposedly or didn't, but were still fun to watch? And this is where you found them.
Yep.
Now that'll be the one.
I mean, I'll probably
Dungeon again.
Well, I mean, the Criterion Collection used to be on Hulu.
Yeah.
And then like it disappeared some randomly, and I think it went somewhere else for like half a second. Like it was on Amazon Prime for like half a second, and then it wound up here. So we'll see where that goes now.
We'll find more weird movies you've never heard of to talk about poorly.
Well, I thought about doing a feature where we have guilty pleasure movies.
Yeah, we could do that.
But like not like stuff like shit that never saw a theatrical release. Like that's like shit you've never heard of, or like you just saw Midnight somewhere on HBO, and it's like, I thought that movie was pretty good for what it was. It's like starring people you don't know. It's like all Canadian movies or some shit.
Yeah. I mean, we could do like a whole best of the 90s sci-fi schlock. We could, because there were terrible movies that came out with like Rutger Hauer was the only actor you'd ever heard of in it. And maybe he was in it for 5 minutes before he got shot.
So
but his face was on the cover. It's like, wait a minute, what?
Is that like Omega Man? Is that one of those? What was the other ones? Yeah, there's some great Rutger Hauer movies that are totally dog shit, but he makes the movie.
Yeah, the one where London's flooded, and there's no explanation why, and he's a bounty hunter, but he's fighting an alien, and he doesn't know it's an alien until later, and I forget what it's called. But yeah, there was all kinds of... The 90s was a weird breeding ground for terrible sci-fi. And then actually movies that were cool, but just bad, but cool, like Hardware. Remember that one?
No, what was that?
Oh, it was I forget who directed it. But it was one with the killer robot, and it had like a lot of sex, and it had like a great option soundtrack. Well, if we're gonna dive into that just a little bit, let me look this up. So I can...
The first thing I'm thinking of is that, like, was that 80s? What was that Tom Selleck, Michael Crichton direct? That was Runaway. Okay.
Yeah.
Was that in the 80s or was that early 90s?
Yeah, it was 80s.
Okay.
I think. I mean, Hardware was 1990. Yeah, it had Dylan McDermott in it. Richard Stanley directed it. Yeah, it's got the Mark 13 robot that injected him with drugs, killed him. It was kind of gory, I remember.
Universal Soldier.
Yeah, Universal Soldier was another one. I'm trying to think. I know the soundtrack in it was kind of cool because it's based on an early '80s comic book,
Yeah.
type stuff, and
But
it was a real
pops
dark
in it.
weird movie. Yeah. Yeah, but we could do a whole dive on.
Also, my other one was the films in '99,
Oh, okay.
because that was my plan for my next one, because I know there's like a ton of stuff that will just like pop into there. But we'll have to like figure out like what was so special about '99 that kind of like brought about these like diverse sets of movies.
Yeah.
Because I mean the big ones there are like Matrix, and well, not necessarily Fight Club. Fight Club is kind of more of an underground hit later on, but it's like constantly referenced, but it wasn't really that big of a box office hit. But the Matrix was like the big, sci-fi out of nowhere sleeper hit.
Sixth Sense, The Blair Witch Project, American Beauty. What else was that?
Existence was in there.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Yep.
Didn't the first of the prequel Star Wars movies, wasn't that 99?
Yep, that was the Phantom Menace was 99.
Okay.
That should be like June or July 99.
Toy Story 2. Yeah, that was a big year for films.
There was also like the two, like Matrix lesser than, or people got compared to the Matrix came out that year was. So there's Existence with the David Cronenberg one, and then there's the 13th Floor, which shit, what's that? Who's in that? That movie's all right. It's not as good as, but it's definitely a movie that got hit over the head with Matrix stuff. It's like, oh, we already know
When did the Christian Bale weird movie come out?
What, American Psycho?
No, the one where he was the future one. Wasn't a great movie, but it had like, Sean Bean got killed in it.
Equilibrium. Was that
Was that
99?
I don't know.
That might have been.
That's another Matrix movie that like, oh, this is kind of like that, and then you watch it.
2002.
Nothing like that, but okay.
I think that Vincent D'Onofrio is in 13 or the 13th Floor.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's all right, but yeah, Craig Bierko. Oh, Craig Bierko. Yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio's in it. It's an all right movie, but definitely got overshadowed by the Matrix, because it wasn't like a big action movie, but it was definitely like a computer simulation movie.
Oh, okay.
Existence I think it kind of found a following just because it's Cronenberg, but yeah, that's a super fucking weird movie.
Yeah. That reminded me a lot more of Naked Lunch than the Matrix.
Yeah. But that one's very specifically like, we're going into a computer simulation, and then while we're in there, we're going to go into another computer simulation.
Yeah, it was a very
And then when we come back out, we don't know what the fuck's going on.
yeah, it was very much, what was that Christopher Nolan film? A simulation within a simulation within a one with the
Oh,
top ending.
fuck.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah. God damn it. You know, the bong noise.
Yeah.
All I can remember is the name of his production company, Syncope.
Yeah, I can't, why am I drawing a blank on that? That was a big movie.
Oh, whatever.
This is what everyone tunes in for, is to watch us.
Yeah, as we search. Oh, Inception. Yeah.
Inception, yeah, that's it. All right, well, back to the show. The end of Filmstruck. Got till the end of November to get those last Filmstruck movies.
Well, actually, only we can, because if they are not accepting new subscribers. But if you're a current subscriber,
Yeah, you got till the end of November. So.
yeah. And then I'll be prorated money for the unused portion of my subscription.
Well, you remember when, and I think it's our Rockets from the Underworld episode, when I was talking about the Flying Crowbar, the Pluto project, the nuclear-powered hypersonic cruise missile.
Yeah.
Okay. We talked about it, and you can look. There's a great article. It's just called "The Flying Crowbar." It talks about this missile that had a ceramic nuclear reactor in it, that you flung it into the air with rockets, and then the nuclear reactor would drive a turbine, and then based on heat coefficient, it would drive this missile, this huge. I mean, this missile was as big as a freight train, through the air, and it would have multiple multi-megaton warheads in it, and it would just drop them off as it flew around the world, because it could fly at 100 feet off the ground at Mach 3, which in itself is wildly destructive. And then factor in the fact it has several multi-megaton warheads in it, and it's spewing radiation out the back that would just poison everything it flew by. This was our weapon. It's called a SLAM. It's a supersonic low-altitude missile. We fucked around with it, got it into development phase, did a lot of work on it, proofed out that the reactor would work, but never tested it, because it's kind of irresponsible to launch a nuclear reactor, and an unshielded nuclear reactor, and have it fly around. Even in Area 51, it's going to fuck a lot of things up. So when they signed the above ground test ban treaty in the 60s, that kind of precluded further testing of this missile. So we just abandoned it. It's like, that's a crazy idea. ICBMs are getting faster. We can shoot them from submarines now. We don't really. This was like a vengeance weapon, really, than a part of the nuclear triad. It's just, you launch this from hardened bunkers when it looks like you're losing, and you just have these things fly around for months at these high speeds, and after they distribute their bombs, which they had many, and they're very high-powered weapons, then it just loiters around your farmland for months, poisoning everything. We abandoned it. It was like, that's a crazy idea. And I talked all about it in our Rockets from the Underworld episode. If you're interested, go back. Well, the Russians have resurrected this idea. I don't know how to pronounce this name. Berezovstetnik, nuclear-powered, nuclear-armed cruise missile. Okay, this one capable of traveling Mach 4 at infinite loiter time. You just deploy it orbits around and waits for you to tell it when to, mainly to attack our ships, but also hit things in the U.S. This was made to defeat our anti-ballistic missile systems, because something traveling that fast at sea level, there's not a whole lot of things that can hit it.
Yeah,
we couldn't detect it in time. Well, the Russians have resurrected this, and they fired one off, and they lost it in the Barents Sea in August. Now, it did not have the nuclear reactor component on it. They used an electric motor to simulate, but the electric motor could drive the turbine at the correct amount of speed and everything to get this missile. It had a 5-second flight time before the electric motor burned up. But they, there's all kinds of special metallurgy and design on this thing, and they lost it in the Barents Sea. And literally every navy in the world now has been in the Barents Sea looking for this thing because we want it, the Russians want it, all kinds of people want it. They want to know what the fuck they're doing. I don't know if you've heard recently, but John Bolton told the Russians we're leaving the Intermediate Ballistic Missile Treaty, which that's what killed off the Pershing missile, the Russian Pioneer SS-18 missile, I believe, and there was a few others. And there also in that treaty, it was said we will not develop supersonic nuclear cruise missiles. Now, it didn't say anything about nuclear powered. It's just you won't develop supersonic nuclear tipped cruise missiles. That's why, because our Tomahawk is not supersonic. It's just low flying, and you can put nuclear weapons in it, but it's not supersonic. And the Chinese and the Russians have been giving us the middle finger ever since we signed that treaty in the 80s, developing supersonic nuclear armed cruise missiles. Well, the Russians took it a step further. Instead of having a fucking nuclear warhead in it, it's also powered by a nuclear reactor, which supposedly gives it infinite range and whatever. But now this thing was a fucking albatross in the 60s. For us, it was a cool idea, but it just was never going to work. It wasn't, and even if it did work, who's going to deploy this fucking thing? It's going to sit. But yeah, so this is
It's fired from a nuclear reactor.
yeah, it's fired from Chernobyl. But yeah, so this is if anyone wonders why we're bailing on this treaty and stuff, it's because the Russians and the Chinese have been doing this shit for years, trying to develop, because it's the only thing they have to destroy our navy. Because now they used to have like shipwreck missiles and things like that. Well, all we can, it's pretty much a fait accompli. We can shoot all that shit down, or at least shoot enough of it down where they're not going to wipe out our navy. But if they have supersonic nuclear tipped cruise missiles, they can wipe out our navy. Both China and Russia are very interested in destroying our navy, because the Russians don't have one, and the Chinese have one that's almost as dangerous to the Chinese as it is to us, or anyone else they'd want to attack. So, yeah, so now we're leaving that. So a whole new spectrum of cost and insanity is heading our way as everyone rushes to develop all these supersonic cruise missiles and the counter weapons that will shoot them down too. So
This one's also nuclear powered and shoots down other nuclear powered missiles, but
yeah.
it only loiter around bad neighborhoods.
Well, I mean, we have weird shit now too. And no one knows how effective. Like that, we have like expanse shit on our ships now, like really small anti-missile weapons. We have rail guns now. No one knows how well they work, but they're out there. They're in the world.
Well, they're testing. Yeah, I don't think they're on ships yet.
Yeah, they're on a ship.
Like
They
deployed or just testing.
I'm not sure. One of the problems with the rail guns is it requires a tremendous amount of energy.
Yeah.
And like it consistently works. They got it to the point where it won't destroy itself every time they fire it. But they don't know, like, if you can only fire it once an hour, it's like, well, that's really cool and scary, but now we got to recharge for an hour. So
I read something like I was reading, because there was that Reddit post where it's like, here's a railgun, and then like somebody like described how a railgun worked, and like I thought I knew it was like, oh, it's just magnetics and it just throws it from one end to the other, but no, it's not. That's what a Gauss cannon would be.
right.
It's like where it's just like you have coils of magnets and they just activate really fast and like shoot the object out. But like specifically a railgun, it has like these prongs like this, and like the electric field is spinning like at different points, and there's like this like right hand thing is like if it spins this way, then there's a little jolt in this direction because of this spinning, like this counterclockwise spinning. So then you just have a million of those, and that increases the velocity based on that.
Yeah, railgun is more capacitance based, where a Gauss rifle is just a sustained magnetic field.
Yeah.
A railgun can accelerate things a lot faster and a lot further. But it's just like a big tungsten cube. It's not ballistically designed. They had some that are, but they found out that the big tungsten cube is just as effective. It kind of looks like a...
Yeah, why machine this shit? Just throw some cubes in there.
Well, it actually looks like a knuckle, like on a drive shaft. It's kind of a weird looking thing, but there's nothing... I mean, they fired it through so many different kinds of metal. There's like, well, nothing can stop this. It's just too much energy going in one direction. But yeah, so yeah, you can see why the Chinese and the Russians. Because what did they say? Like the defense authorization bill we just did, just the addition we made to it exceeds the budget of the Russian military. That's it's like just the added money we put into it exceeds the entire budget of the Russian military and the Chinese.
Our
military.
cherry on the top is their entire military.
Yes. Well, Russia has their economy is like the size of France or Spain.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks it's like, oh, we're back to the Soviet times. No, you're not. You're not. They have a market economy. They can't just
They still rely too much on oil, which is completely dependent on market forces, which they don't control.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't go fracking crazy in this country because we like to drill holes into the ground and fill them with weird fluid.
Also,
oil prices though.
Also, like even as you know, hey, the crazy stuff they come up with, they actually aren't that innovative. Like in terms of like patents and new ideas, like China is like well beyond them on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also it's like, and if you what's that? What's that? Was the Mercator projection where like it reforms the size of the continents to be like how they actually are rather than the globe projection.
Yeah, it's a lot smaller country than what you think it is.
Yeah, I mean it's still pretty big, but like Africa is still like way bigger than it is.
Yeah.
Well, I guess not way bigger, but in the Mercator projection, in the Mercator projection, Africa is like one of the few continents that doesn't really change at all, because it's near the equator.
And China, the big mitigator with them is, as we're all finding out this week, and I didn't know until I read about it, they don't have enough arable land to feed everyone.
Yeah.
And they haven't for a long time because we have these sanctions and tariffs going back and forth. And I didn't realize the Chinese bought almost all our excess soybeans for animal feed. And now they're saying, well, we're just not going to buy them. So they're going to cut their animal feed with like sawdust and pine bark.
Okay, it's like fast food for animals.
And they said, I forget what the one animal husbandry guy said, but it's like, yeah, in about 3 generations, those animals will be any offspring from those will be very sick. It's and that's animal lifespans, livestock. So we're talking 5 years. This is like, oh, they're just going to start starving to death, or conquering everyone, whichever comes first. So they, yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's like, the old Pluto rocket's back, but it's like a lot of Russian things. They make claims and everyone looks at it and it's like, well, that's bullshit. That'll never happen. Yeah, that's not feasible. They don't have the infrastructure to build and maintain that, or it's just like a suicide weapon. Kill your own people.
If I lose, everyone loses.
Yeah. That's so I was glad that's back. It's like good. The Russians are going to have a nuclear powered cruise missile. We'll all be more complete for that. But they're not actually going to have one because the one they had, they lost, and it's their only fucking prototype. I'm sure we have some weird NR-1 type submarine on the bottom of the sea with hook arms, like pulling it in. It's like, what is this? Are we doomed? It's like, no, this is like a pop can with like they put like sodium in it. What did you think they were doing?
Send out the Glomar Explorer 2. It's just a research vessel.
The Russians have one of those. They built one. It's out there looking for this thing. They built one after we built the Glomar Explorer. At almost 10 times the cost of the Glomar Explorer. The Glomar Explorer was fucking expensive for the time. It was like $1 billion in 70s money. And the Russians like, we got to have one of those. It's like, it's way too expensive. We don't have the technology. It doesn't matter. We're going to have one. They just paid through the nose for it. But yeah, that's so all that fun and games is going on. Let's see. I want to talk about a video game. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Here we go. I don't know if you. I'll play a little bit of this trailer. Somebody shot me this trailer. This is the Tetris Effect. Have you seen this?
Oh
trailer?
yeah, I've sent you this trailer before. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I won't play it then. I for some reason I missed.
It's a very
it.
captivating trailer, but it's just basically VR Tetris.
Yeah, but it really, it's like because someone maybe you did send me the trailer and I just got around to looking at it.
Well, it came out like either last E3 or like last Paris Game Show or something like that.
Something like that. I mean, it's coming out next month, the actual game.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that the guy Tetsuya, I don't know how to say these names, Mitsuguchi, the guy who invented Lumines,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Rez, and all that. This is his baby.
Yep.
He talked to the people at Tetris, and they're like, "Yeah, go ahead, you know, whatever." And this looks really fucking cool. And I've seen demos of it, and they had the best Tetris player in the world play it. And the only Tetris he really played was the old NES style Tetris. He wasn't really cued in on this, and he did great, of course, watching it on the TV. And then they gave him the VR goggles, and because there's lower latency with the VR goggles than the TV, he did even better. He like achieved 3 of the hardest things you could achieve in this game like in an hour.
Yeah.
Using the VR goggles because it was better, and I was like, "Oh, cool!" Because I love Tetris. I will waste a lot of time playing Tetris, and it's hard to get a good version of it when you're just Mac bound. And I was like, "Oh, this is really cool," but this is PlayStation only, so
Yeah.
it's like I'll never fucking. I'm not gonna go $300 deep on a.
Well,
on a
well, that's just PlayStation. The VR helmet's extra. I think that's an extra $200.
$400 or $300. I think
It's way cheaper than the other ones, but they just have some pretty good deals on it. But they also came out with a new version of it. But
yeah.
but also it has probably the worst controls out of it and the worst like what do you call it? Sort of like detection.
Yeah.
Like some people don't have problems with it, but like the Giant Bomb guys, like in both East and West Coast, they've had problems with the headsets where they don't track the controllers you have in your hand, so it's really bad for like in games where you have like free movement of your hands to like pick up things and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, it looked amazing to me, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it'd be so cool if only I had like $600 to throw at playing Tetris." The thing is, it would probably be $600 worth of entertainment.
Yeah.
Anything else done, I wouldn't be building models. I'd be like texting you like, "Yeah, I can't do the show tonight. My fucking side hurts or something." You know, I just get totally sucked into it.
I haven't seen any gameplay. I just remember the trailers like that voiceover basically, and then some visuals. Is it just Tetris in a VR environment, or is it doing anything extra special?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of extra. Well, the environments are beautifully rendered because it's a simple game. You're not like developing a lot of.
Is it like you're just doing Tetris in a star field or something like that?
Yeah, and there's like different music and shit. It's like Lumines and Tetris combined.
Yeah,
because Lumines always had they had good gameplay, but they had this great weird kind of Euro techno soundtrack.
Yeah,
and then this combines like a real techno type soundtrack and even music you've heard of. I've heard later in the game, but it does have something in it called Zone, where if you clear enough lines, you build it up and you can go into this mode where it like the game still plays, but it doesn't clear. So you can just rack up zones that you clear, and then when it comes out of zone mode, you can get something. I think it's called a Decahedra Tetris or something. Clear 20 fucking lines.
Okay.
And that, I'm not probably getting that terminology right, but anyway, the best Tetris player in the world, did that using the VR rig, because it comes down. I mean, those guys are like, it was coming down so fast, and he was just using a control.
Yeah.
With the VR helmet on it, and I was like, oh yeah, that would probably carry me away. But unfortunately, if it was on the Xbox, I have an Xbox, and I'd just play it on my TV and probably be happy as a pig in shit, because I'm too old to have the reflexes to play level 25 Tetris anymore. But it was.
Well, is it a Sony exclusive? Because it might come to the Vive.
I don't. I think it. Yeah. Whatever the last E3 was when they did the trailer.
Yeah, July.
And it said just PlayStation all over it.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to, whatever this new PlayStation VR rig is they're coming out with, or whatever this thing is, it's like one of the launch titles with it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
to work with that. So it's going to be a Sony thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Because
Yeah, they've been putting some money into it because, like, I don't know how successful it is, but I think it's probably, out of all the other units, it's probably the most prolific in terms of just units out there.
yeah,
So there's actually, like, a lot of good games coming out for just the Sony VR system just because it has the units, the install units.
right.
And also you don't have to throw, like, $800 at it.
Yeah.
Although they have more expensive Vives now.
Oh, really? How much are those?
I think there's like a $1,500 one out there right now.
Wow.
But it's like way more. It's like the screens are inside of them are more. They just have more pixels or whatever, pixel density. So there's less of that kind of like not really scan line, but it's just kind of like you notice that almost there's like a separation in the image when you put those things on.
Okay.
So now there'd be like less of that. It would just be like you're just staring into your computer.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
It's just clear. And
But
there's
yeah, you're right. That trailer was that was a very effective trailer too.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Like-
because that voiceover and then it ends with like, and it's like talking about people like when they dream they see like things falling and it's like it's known as the Tetris effect, and then that's what the fucking game is called.
Yeah. They've only been trying to develop it since 2012, so been in the pipeline a while. I just thought it looked cool, and I was like, hey, I never talk about common video game stuff because I don't do that anymore, but this is something I would do, but I'm not going to, only if I had existing equipment to do
Yeah.
it. I'm not going to.
Hey, I'm not gonna do it either. I'm not gonna buy that fucking headset. I already got one.
You have a PlayStation 4, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be happy as a pig and shit just to play it on the TV. But yeah, I'm not gonna. There's other things I want to spend money on. So, my son's car insurance for one thing. Spending a lot of money on that.
I just tell him to get a job and pay for it himself.
Yeah, well, actually, I don't want to ruin.
Hey, when did you first have a job?
Oh, when I was 18.
18? I had a job when I was 14.
Yeah, I never worked. I couldn't. I was too much of a fuck up at school and shit. And when I did finally start getting jobs, I got fired from almost every one I had for like 2 years.
I've had
Like, stop running my mouth.
3 jobs in my life. I've been working since I'm 14.
Yeah. He couldn't. Actually, I don't know how he could work because between school and football, and even once football's over, he gets like 2 weeks, and then it's training camp. And then it's train, and then you all through the off season, and then the summer is like gone. There's like 2 football camps in the summer, and like I said, and he doesn't even fucking play a lot, and he broke his fucking arm this year, so yeah, I don't know how he couldn't have a job, and I'm making
Yeah, he could.
I mean, he could, but it would be his grades are really good this year too.
Oh, he can't. I mean, at his age, you can't even have a full-time job. You get like 20 hours a week.
Yeah,
And it's like you can only work after school, so that's like 4 to 10. So it's maybe like 4. That's like maybe 4 days of work in a week.
yeah. His grades are also really good right now. Best grades he's ever had in high school. So it's like I'm not going to do anything. I'll just work. Thankfully, I make enough money with me and Stacy that I can bitch about it all the time, but we can actually pay for it. I was something for me to bitch about.
I had to work.
Yeah, it's
Everybody in the house had to work.
yeah. No, we're blessed for now. God knows what's going to happen. The economy's really going in the shit pipes. So maybe that'll change. I don't know. But he really gets a lot out of football, so I'm not gonna. I would sell shit and fucking give things up so he can keep doing that because he's only got 1 more year.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and I've said this before, it's like it's probably the last nice thing that's gonna happen to him in his life. So, I'm not gonna take that away from him. Because there's nothing there. These kids nowadays have no future. There's nothing out there for them. Nothing to aspire to. There's nothing to hope for. So I would never want to fuck that up.
No, there's stuff out there.
I don't
At least
know.
while you're young. Like, there's nothing for me out there.
Yeah,
My life's already fucked up. There's nothing.
well, I mean,
I have to convince somebody that I'm like way more valuable than I am.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like me. If I lost the one good thing I have, which is my job right now, I would be fucking fucked. I can drive like heavy equipment and semis and stuff, but I'd have to start over right at the bottom of that and
Yeah.
work my way up again. And it's like I could make a living, like I wouldn't be minimum wage, but I'm not a skilled person. I don't have any secondary education, and I just it's like
Fucking, I'm trained in a skilled trade, and the best I get is $9 an hour for my skilled trade work.
oh yeah, it's
I make twice that at Walmart.
it's crazy. And I'll tell you, like running, like getting into having to go back to school and finish up like crane rigging, lifting, and or driving trucks or whatever, like that would cost me money. And it's like that's except for driving trucks, that's all seasonal work. It's like I could tell people, I make $75 an hour driving a double boom crane, but it's like, yeah, I work 3 months a year too. So it's like, and even those jobs are starting to be taken over by people that'll just come here as on worker visas and stuff, and because they do that shit in the Philippines too, and they'll come over here for $30 an hour and do it, and so it's like, yeah, everything's a mess. That's why, back to what I'm saying, I don't want my kid to have a job, because pretty much these are the last good years of his life. Fucking joke after that. But, because there's no getting him a job with Dad at the Rouge. Because he would make less money starting off now than you do at Walmart.
Yeah.
For fucking building a car. Yep, that's out. But none of those people want to come to work, and they're always hiring 200 people a month, and they're left with 20 at the end of the month. So it's like, oh, I don't know what's happening to our employees. It's like, look what you're paying them. First of all, jackass, go work the frame line for 100 hours, not for 1 day or 2 minutes. Go work the frame line for 100 hours, and then you decide what that's worth. Because if you had to do it, it'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Because every robot you've tried to put in there has fucking burnt out after the end of a month. So, but you can break backs for that. But say it's ergonomically sound. Okay. Is that why that 25-year-old had to get his shoulders replaced? Because it's ergonomically sound? Okay. Yeah, it's because he played soccer when he was a kid. That's it. Now I'm straying into the territory where I will lose my job, so we'll stop talking about that. And we can move on to Halloween. Have you seen the 2018 Halloween?
No. I haven't seen the Rob Zombie Halloween.
You're not missing much there.
Well, I hear the first one's all right, and I hear the second one's a really huge mess.
First one was okay, because it was kind of a shot-for-shot remake of the original one.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, it's sort of, not really.
But was Rob Zombie flair?
Yeah, it was more edgy and like...
Higher production?
Maybe?
How was the soundtrack? Was he even involved with the soundtrack? Does he do stuff with his own soundtracks?
I don't know.
Because I never thought of that. Now I just realized, like, I don't think there's, like, any Rob Zombie-esque stuff in any of his movies like this. Like, does this seem like a Rob Zombie song or score? Like, I don't know. I never thought of that till then.
Direct and score a movie simultaneously.
I mean, John Carpenter does.
Yeah, John Carpenter is like 4 beats. Not like he's not composing something.
Yeah, but I mean, like, at least like a section. Like, he could compose like a section of his movies, but like I don't think he does. Like the most famous thing I think the most famous thing he has is that like that part in The Devil's Rejects with Freebird. Where I think he got away with it because he realized, I don't think anybody's used Freebird in a movie before.
Especially in a movie about psychopathic love.
Right before you murder them at the end of the movie.
Yeah, before you kill off all your heroes.
Question mark? I mean, They should all die, and they die in a really good way. So
I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. That's why it's a strangely great movie.
Yeah, it's compelling. I've seen The Devil's Rejects. I didn't think I'd like it, and I kind of did.
Well, House of a Thousand Corpses, which is kind of its prequel, or it is its predecessor, isn't very good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bunch of weird shit and a bunch of gross out stuff for sure, but it's like, this isn't that good. And then you watch Devil's Rejects, and it's like, oh, this is actually a good movie and weirdly compelling because, like, our heroes are fucking horrible people.
Yeah. But
Like
then
that-
again, so is everyone else.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
The cops are all fucking maniacs.
yeah.
Oh. But no, anyway, Halloween 2018 brought to you by the team that brought Eastbound and Down. This was directed by David Gordon Green and written by him and Jeff Fradley and Danny McBride.
Okay.
Green is the director and McBride is one of the script writers. And let's see who else was.
John Carpenter did the score.
Yeah, John Carpenter did the new score with his son. And Jamie Lee Curtis was a producer, not an executive producer, a producer. This movie cost like $14 million to make.
It's a Blumhouse production,
Yeah, it's a Blumhouse production.
which I'm not sure where Halloween used to be.
Dimension.
Okay. Oh, yeah, because this also says, like, Miramax, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was surprised to see that. It's like, oh, there's the Miramax logo.
Well, I mean, you're getting away from Weinstein. I mean, the Weinsteins have been involved in Miramax for like 15 years, so you.
I know, but everyone associates them.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
they built Miramax.
Yeah. So anyway, this is actually a good. Is weird about this one is this is Halloween 2. This is the direct sequel to the first Halloween. All that shit in the middle got thrown out.
Even Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which has nothing to do
believe
with has nothing to do with Michael Myers at all.
Believe it or not, yeah, that just has to do with we hate the Irish. Because every bad person in Halloween 3 was like Irish, like from Ireland, Irish.
Huh.
Um,
I've never actually seen that. I hear like people hate that movie because it doesn't involve Michael Myers, but it's actually like a
it's a
I'm
good
surprised-
stand-alone horror movie.
yeah, because it was like that's what John Carpenter wanted originally, is Halloween to be like this anthology horror movie
Yeah, it was
or
supposed
horror
to,
series.
like what's that thing that Abrams does? Cloverfield.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was supposed to be some concept like that, where it's like, yeah, this is all called Cloverfield. None of them are fucking related or loosely related. But yeah, so that's this is a direct sequel to Halloween, 40 years ago, 1978 Halloween, and it's actually a pretty good movie. It's not without its speed bumps, but it's worth watching. I mean, if you like the original Halloween, which me and Stacy, of course, are big fans,